We've got Roger Lowrey in the studio today. Good afternoon, young man. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for asking me to come in.
Absolutely. What did you think of that Christmas song? Is it your cup of tea?
It was brilliant.
Barney, a top dog here, absolutely loves it. I have to confess, it's not completely my thing. But hey, it's Christmas, and anything goes at Christmas, doesn't it?
It does.
It does, it does. So, Roger, you're joining me today because we met through social media, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
It's one of those things. I kind of made one of those calls for help in a time of need, and you reached out to me, and I really appreciated that, and we got to know each other a little bit more, and I discovered what an incredible journey you've had, and it really, I always love it when somebody's managed to sort of, you're born in St. Paul's, born and bred Bristol boy, very proud Bristol boy, aren't you?
I am, I really am. If you cut me in half, I'm like a stick of rock. I got Bristol written through me.
I love that. That's great. So you're born in St. Paul's, and you worked, as you put it, behind the shovel until you were 35, and then kind of, because now you're an incredibly successful businessman. You've got an incredibly successful business company, and you're a trailblazer for affordable housing, which we're going to get onto shortly. But what I want to ask you now is, like, going back to when you were 35 and you were working behind a shovel as a builder. What changed at that point? What made you decide, actually, I don't want to do this anymore?
Well, that's really good. And I need to rewind back probably to when I was 18.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to get a job at Rolls-Royce, which for someone in Bristol is brilliant. 5,000 people applied for the jobs then.
Yeah.
And then they only took 200. Within 6 months of me joining, they went bankrupt.
No.
So I had to take any job. So I ended up going for money, and I ended up working on the motorways, building the motorways, which makes you lots of money, but it's not fulfilling in any way. But it enabled me to buy my first house cash at 19, which is good. So then I went on making money, and the company grew and grew and grew till the point where at 35 I was able to sit back and become a proper managing director with the Mercedes and all those things that go with it, and have a proper office and staff. And I was very proud of the fact, I used to tell everybody I've learnt the hard way in the school of hard knocks, because I went to a comprehensive school, Hengrove Comprehensive School, and as you say, I was 65 years ago, I was born in St. Paul's. So you get to a point with the business where you go through stages of growth, and because I was a self-taught businessman, basically that was an idiot, and I had an ego so big, which is good because it drives you to take opportunities, but I wouldn't ask anybody for help, which is absolutely stupid, because I mentor lots of businesses now. And if I could have found a little bald bloke like me at that age, it would have been a fabulous help. I would have saved probably 10 or 15 years that I wasted learning the hard way. So at that stage, I came off the tools, and then we grew and grew and grew. And very enjoyable in the growth and the excitement and the money, but not fulfilling.
So if you had a chance to sort of rewind and you say you wouldn't want to make those mistakes again, what was it that you did wrong? What would you tell somebody you were mentoring now?
Find a little bald bloke like me who's done it and ask him what cock-ups he made and how to avoid them, because not only do you waste time. Money, you can get loads of money. Money's not a problem at all, even though people think it is. Time you can't get again. Yeah. And those mentors, those experienced people, can save you wasting time.
I get that. Focused. I had a very big decision to make when I got pregnant. I had an amazing career, incredibly successful. It's like, do I give my career up and become a full-time mum, or do I keep the money coming in? And I chose to dedicate myself to being a full-time mum. And like you said, I'm so glad I did, because I would never have got those years back, and they've gone so quick. They've just flown by. So, the career can always come again in the future, but being a mum can't. So okay, so you're 35, you kind of turned your life around, and you've got a really positive outlook on life, haven't you? Like, you're saying sort of like, instead of being responsible for your life, you're kind of response-able. What kind of, how did you manage to turn around your way of thinking to think like this?
Well, yeah, that's quite right. We are responsible. Everybody gets opportunities. It's always hard to be successful. And you can't define success as making money. It's about, everybody wants to be happy. Money certainly helps. I have no illusions about that one. But it's about being happy first, and the money comes. And to be successful is about, if you knock on one door, then only one door can open. But I knocked on 1,000 doors. And the luckier you become, the more doors you knock on. That's an old saying, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you think is the key to life then?
you have to be able to choose your day. Your aim in life has to be able to get up every day and choose your day, and not let someone choose it for you.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, doing something that you enjoy and you love is so important, isn't it? You know, and if you've just got enough money to get by, it's not about being rich, is it?
No, it's not. And if you really enjoy doing what you're doing, which I do with the trailblazing affordable housing, it isn't work, is it?
No.
You know, it's not work. It's easy. When I was digging holes and doing lots of foundations in drains and things like that, that was work. That was absolutely misery. Loads of money, you know, 200,000 or 300,000 a year income, but absolutely the most miserable situation you can be in.
So you didn't have an education. Do you regret that? Would you, if you had your time again, would you go back and go to school and get your qualifications? Or do you think that it doesn't matter if you've got that focus and that goal?
I don't think it matters.
It's got to be different for everybody, hasn't it?
Yeah, it can open doors a bit quicker, and it can speed. It's back to that saving time if you've got qualifications. At 50, I spent £100,000 over 5 years going back and learning quantum physics and epigenetics and neurology. And my son, who's far wiser than me, asked me one day if I ate healthily, and I snapped it back at him and said, "Of course I do." And he said, "How do you know?" And he was absolutely right. I didn't know. So ever since, I've been passionate about healthy eating in relation to, you know, our energy and things like that.
Oh, really?
So I did expensive courses very rapidly, went to London, and I've still got massive thirst for knowledge, and I'm absolutely obsessed with quantum physics.
Okay, so what is it about quantum physics that excites you? If you just explaining it to a kid, imagine I'm a kid. We've got one here anyway. He probably would understand it more than I do. You know how because I want to get into affordable housing, but we'll do that after the news because we've got a couple of minutes before we hit the news. So what is it about quantum physics that you find so fascinating?
Well, I can't really sum it up in milliseconds, but I can really.
Gotta, you know,
it's about manifesting your day and your future, and the fact you collapse reality. It's going to sound really weird and wooey. But what we focus on, we achieve. And it isn't magic. There's a thing called the law of attraction, which loosely follows it. And if you get somewhere, you attract the people into your life that you deserve. I attracted a wrong one into my life in 2010 that put me in jail for 10 weeks.
Yes.
And that was painful, but it was a learning lesson. I went to jail for something I didn't do. I was supposed to have bribed someone on the council. I didn't do it. But there you are. I didn't have the $250,000 to pay for the legal costs.
So this is what happens. So at the age of 60, for your first offence, you end up spending how long in prison?
I got 8 months sentence and I did 10 weeks.
What? I mean, how can you sum that experience up? You dropped me in it by dropping that before the news, which is obviously something we can't really cover again in a minute. But what was it horrific? Was it okay? Was it rehabilitating? What was it like?
No, it's my worst nightmare because it was a total injustice, and it shocked me to the core because I didn't have the $250,000 to pay the legal cost. The default setting is you're guilty, and that was such a shock.
Yeah,
but good's come out of it. Really good things have come out of it.
Were you in prison in Bristol?
Yeah, that's horrendous. They went on strike when I got there, and I did 3 weeks of 23-hour-a-day bang up in a cell with no window.
Roger Lowrey, we now have to take a break for the news. You know how to get a cliffhanger, don't you? Great. Well, we're speaking to Roger Lowrey. He's a real success story. Born and bred in Bristol, has an incredibly successful Bristol company, and has started out. He's a real trailblazer of sustainable and affordable housing. And he started up this. What do you call them? Kit houses.
Yeah, it's modular housing. Is it
modular houses?
Name?
Yeah, it's like
Flat
you get a kit to buy a house. It's incredible. I'm going to tell you all about it after the latest headline news from the BBC. You're listening to The Word here on Ujima 98 FM. That is the awesome sounds of Nefertiti and a track entitled Wave. We're joined today by a really cool guy. His name is Roger Lowrey. It's a bit of a success story. You know, boy did good, didn't you? The boy did good. Bristol boy, you did, didn't you? And we've been talking about just before the news about how he got a real injustice and was put in prison for something that he didn't do at the age of 60, your first ever offence. And in a way, it kind of put you onto your next chapter in life. Perhaps you would like to explain what happened and why you got into this next phase of your life.
Yeah, because prior to that event, it was a malicious attack on me by a member of staff because I told him off and he decided to cause trouble. We were heavily into, I'd invented terrorist-proof structures that protect the water utility industry and launched them into the water industry very successfully. And when you've got a fraud conviction, you can't go on with that. I only had government contracts. So basically my business stopped stone dead. When I came out, everybody rallied round, and to know that you're truly loved by hundreds of people is fabulous, because not many people know that before they get buried. And that 10-week episode, everybody came out to help me, with the great and the good, you name it, everybody. And it was brilliant. So Applegreen Homes approached me, and they are passionate about getting affordable housing around the country. They're based in Glasgow, and they approached me, and I looked at the product and it was fabulous. So there's a desperate need in Bristol. I haven't done it to be a goody two-shoes after the prison thing. I haven't got anything to put right. But it was a fabulous opportunity. And I've been on it 4 years now, working with Marvin and his team. It's very difficult working with
Marvin Rees on there, obviously, yeah.
They're all good guys, and I really do like them a lot. They're strangled by red tape, and the general public, and especially someone that's homeless, doesn't realise how legislation is nailing them to the wall. It's very difficult to work with Bristol as an entrepreneur and an innovator. We've got £2,000 million worth of backing to get these affordable houses up. So there's more than enough money available, with another 2 billion available if we need it. But it's only available from a pension fund if we're doing a collaborative deal with a city council or a housing association. Bristol is very difficult to work with, very difficult.
Why is that? What is it?
The red tape and the fact it owns its own housing stock. So it manages and owns its own housing stock. So it can't actually work with an independent business without going out to tender and things like that. So that strangles it, because there's no one in the same business as Applegreen Homes that we can tender against. So to make houses affordable in Bristol, we have to have the land for £1 a plot. If we buy it on the open market, then Applegreen Homes are still affordable, but I want them to be like £100,000 for a family home. Yeah. And their homes are end fuel poverty as well. They're very cheap to run. They're highly tested.
Well, they're extremely sustainable, aren't they? That's the whole point. You know, looking yesterday, and I'm not a builder, not an architect. I don't understand, but I could immediately tell by looking at the website how sustainable these buildings are. Just in the timber that you use, and the windows and everything is aimed to be sustainable, isn't it?
And the whole philosophy behind Applegreen is we give newly trained people a start. So ex-Royal Engineers, ex-offenders, and people like that. Everybody's going to get a chance. We're working very closely with Western College and Strode College. I'm a fellow of the Faculty of Business at UE. So the whole chain of Applegreen, it provides work, it provides affordable housing, and it ends fuel poverty, and it comes at the right money, and we've got all the funding to do it. All we need is collaborative deals. North Somerset are brilliant with us, a lot easier to deal with. Baines are a lot easier to deal with us. We've got a project going on at Rochdale, and we've just secured a contract worth 18 million with one of the East London boroughs. So the Applegreen Homes guy, he's been on it 12 years and he hasn't made a penny yet.
Really?
But because the government doesn't know how to work with innovators, because you have to work on trust and you have to hold hands. And unfortunately, the business setup between business and city councils and local authority, they have no stomach for that, because it's oil and water. Someone that works in the civil service doesn't have an entrepreneurial mind. That's not criticism of them, but they don't understand people like me. And it involves trust, and they can't trust.
So where will you go from here? What will you do? How will you solve this?
Well, we're working with the housing associations. We've had lengthy talks with the Guinness Partnership and Curo. They're fabulous. They're so much easier to deal with than local authorities, because they aren't strangled by the red tape that a city council is.
Is it the red tape that the kind of the central government put round our councils, why they can't make decisions, or what is the problem?
Yes, it is fundamentally the red tape by central government. And central government keeps telling everyone it's broken the red tape and has opened all the floodgates, but it hasn't. When you actually go and try, and they say there's money to fund it. Well, I went to go and get some of the 3 billion, and they said, yeah, there is money here, Roger, but we don't legally know how to hand it over to you. So that was a joke, and yet it's all over the press that the government has got $3 billion to fund affordable housing. Well, you can't get the money, so it's a nonsense.
It's crazy. When we're living in Bristol, we know how we're suffering with homeless at the moment. It's horrific, and I know Marvin Rees was one of his main things that he wanted to address. But he gets so much criticism for not achieving stuff, but he still doesn't have that control, does he, over how to totally run the city?
No, he doesn't. And the thing is, he would get penalised if he didn't obey the rules.
So is there any way we could sort of become independent of central government? Is that something they're looking at doing?
Well, yes, we can, because we've turned up, Albert Green Homes and myself, we've turned up with 2,000 million.
Yeah.
We're coming. We're talking to them, but nothing's happening. I mean, Paul Smith has made massive inroads. I mean, he's done.
Incredible guy.
He's moved heaven and earth.
Do you know what? He gets mentioned nearly every week on this show, Paul Smith, because everybody keeps coming in and talking about what an incredible job he's doing, which he is. He's the cabinet minister for housing on Marvin's council.
Yeah.
And he's making real inroads,
but
like you say.
Again, he's not doing it anywhere near fast enough. The problem is getting bigger. Much bigger than he's come with. We're not even denting the core problem of 20,000, and that's 20,000 we know of. There's an awful lot of people sleeping on sofas.
I know,
that we don't know about.
Absolutely, yep. And unfortunately, with universal credits coming in, there's going to be a whole load more homeless people, because they're now from 2018 cutting a housing assistance for anybody who has a mortgage.
That's right.
So that's going to mean houses being sold and more people in rented accommodation.
That's correct. And we've got a problem that's not going to go away now, and I don't think people have got the gravity of it. We've now got parents, children and grandchildren, and they can't afford to buy, they can't afford to rent, and they'll never be able to afford to buy or rent. Just think of that. They'll never be able to do it. And we've got middle-aged young people now that will never be able to have a family because they're still living at home with mum and dad. Yeah. We're writing off the human race in Bristol because of land prices, but we can do it. We can break that.
I was going to say, what would you do if you could, but you're doing it, I guess, with affordable housing? Yeah. Do you need land? Is that the bottom line?
Everybody needs land. Yeah. And there's a lot coming available after April. But again, we'll be competing with the national house builders, and they can outbid anyone. There's the problem. There has to be two-tier for housing: national house builders and social housing. Whether you like it or not, we got to have council houses.
Roger, it's been a real pleasure to have you in the studio. This Apple Green project sounds absolutely incredible. You really are a trailblazer in sustainable and affordable housing, and it's really exciting to see such an incredible project happening here in Bristol. So, Roger Lowrey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you, Roger. What an incredible guy. I love it when you get to meet somebody who is born and bred Bristol and a real success story and really battling to do good in our city. It's such a breath of fresh air. It reminds me of Jasper Thompson, who was in a couple of weeks ago from Bristol Hopes Homeless. And there's these few guys who are really, really battling to do good in our city, and a defender of the homeless and a defender of people of Bristol, and I love it. It's brilliant.